right.
Hey, Sonic Explorers. Good to be back with you for another CirdecSongs chat. I cannot begin to tell you how excited I am for this one. I have been following this gentleman's music off and on for the better part of 40 years. I have musician, pianist, drummer, and all-around nice guy, Gary Husband, with me. How are we doing today, sir?
Thank you, Cedric, sir. So good to see you, man. I'm fine. How about you?
Good to see you too. Oh, I'm okay. You know, springtime is here and daylight savings has kicked in, so I get a little more light. It just definitely improves one's mood, which is always nice.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah,
absolutely.
Good to see you.
How's the world treating you right now?
It's good. I mean, it's always good just to keep busy.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate to be busy. So I'm fortunate to be healthy enough to be busy. And I'm really happy to be busy.
Always a good thing. Because I know COVID was difficult for a lot of musicians.
No,
they were just basically sitting still.
I mean, it gave rise. I mean, in my case, just to launch into something. While I remember, it gave an opportunity for a situation to arise with Chick Corea and do a long distance file sharing.
Okay, that's good.
And I'd known him for not actually that long, really. I mean, over the years, it's been accumulative, and I've got to know him more. And he was always very, very supportive of everything. And he had this penchant for keyboards and drums.
Yeah.
So when we started writing to each other, sort of much more on a sort of friends kind of basis, he'd write, "Hey, piano and drums. What's happening, man?" You know?
I like that. I mean, that's an interview I wish I could have gotten. He seems like he would have been a great personality to talk to.
Well, we recorded one, and it's on my YouTube, and it's on the my website, and it's like a conversation with, and it was supposed to be me interviewing him, and it turned into sort of us both interviewing each other, if you like.
Well, those are the best chats. Yeah, those are the best chats. There's nothing that drives me crazier than watching somebody just, look at a list of questions and start rattling off the standard stuff. That's why I almost never write any of them down. But you've got Chick Corea here, and real fast, this is the one time I'm going to look at notes because there are just too many people that you've worked with for me to memorize. John McLaughlin, Billy Cobham, Allan Holdsworth, Level 42, Jack Bruce, Gary Moore, Jeff Beck, Robin Trower, Lenny White, Randy Brecker, Soft Machine Legacy, Al Jarreau. I mean, the list, Mike Stern, the list is pretty much endless. So, which will lead me into my first question, even though I'm going to bounce around. How do you describe the Gary Husband sound, be it keyboards or drums? What is it you bring to the table, you think, that's gotten the attention of so many amazing musicians, and you've got a chance to work with them?
I don't know. Maybe some kind of cross between being proactive in music, being 100% serious about it, but also at the same time being of a more benevolent nature, in that to totally embrace everything I'm hearing from everybody all the time. And I think it's one of the big differences between, I think, just everybody, really. I mean, if you're a musician, you have to have this connectivity, and this big accent on that word. And connection with somebody personally is everything to me as an artist, very definitely. And I don't really do anything lightly, so I also work very hard, so they also know they get that. Maybe a variety of reasons why they would. Nobody else is available.
And I know you as a pretty modest guy. I'm not expecting you to be real braggadocious about anything, but I like asking that question because I'm just looking at this and I'm like, well, clearly there's something on this man's CV that it just keeps bringing them to him.
I think the CV causes confusion more than anything else with more people than not. It's actually, take a look at that. It's like, well, who is this guy? And on two instruments.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel pigeonholed? Do you think people are looking at you for one particular genre, or?
I better not. No, well, when it happens, I think it's happened. I mean, I can't. If someone cares enough to notice something and would like to assume that that's basically centrally what I'm about,
Mm-hmm.
that as in an area of music, then it would be a mistake to sort of say, well, I never agree with it, but I don't mind it. I mean, I'm just happy if anybody likes anything I do,
That's
frankly.
fair. That's more than fair. Now, I learned about you as a drummer playing with Allan Holdsworth. The song was the Unmerry-Go-Round. You did a solo on that that just caught my attention. Like, what is that? Who's doing that? I was stunned to learn about you as a pianist, and you started on the piano, did you not?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you
Actually,
had.
a long time before drums, but who's counting?
Well, we won't put numbers on it or anything, because I think that'll drive us both crazy. But
Yeah.
what
So,
led you to the drums as a piano? And I'm kind of going backwards in my questioning, but that's okay. What led you to the drums?
um, I think the agony and anguish of being involved with classical piano study for a good 4 or 5, maybe more years, 6 years or something, and it was really really crucially, uh, I should say, important in the sense that it gave birth to and developed in my hands a technique that would endure and has lasted, please God, keep lasting,
Right.
to right up to the present, and that is one really built around a training that can only come from classical piano, like a very highly highly thought of one too, usually. I
I
mean,
understand.
I had one, it was a lady, and she was pretty vicious. She used to sort of get her thrills out of intimidation and violence and whatever,
Oh dear.
whatever she could find to throw at me or hit me with. But that was I'm talking 1970, 71 ballpark now.
Uh-huh.
And they could do that then. They could, you know,
The abusive
and
approach. Well, if you saw the movie Whiplash a couple of years ago, apparently
oh
somebody's
yeah.
still doing it out there. That
Well, yeah. A lot of people refuse to believe that was based on anything factual, but
right.
in fact, you know, that comes from real people.
And that's kind of
Observances
scary to
of
me. I mean,
yeah,
music is fun. Music is a joy to play. So it kind of shocks me that there are teachers out there to take that approach.
yeah. But I just think the invariably the whole, at least the musical sort of universe infrastructure and stuff was certainly from the point of view of musicians and working situations as a musician was like, you had to prove yourself. You had to go in there and you had to have confidence and be
Right.
able to follow through and arrive on time and play in time, and
Whatever you do.
appropriately.
Right.
This
Unless you have a chair thrown at you, but
Yeah, exactly. But it was the way the business was then. If you wanted to be asked back, you showed people respect. You found out whatever you could about them, which wasn't obvious before, you know, being online and the internet, because you had to sort of find things, go to the library, and really research somebody and listen to interviews, whatever, and you find out a little bit about somebody you really respect, and it comes such a time that you're able to quote certain records, no matter, maybe it's an obscure record of this certain artist, and they'll say, "Do you know that record?" And you go, "Sure, I know it." Yeah, and you reel off a couple of the musicians that played on it, and they go, "Wow, man, I don't know anybody who remembers that record. I'm so so flattered. So right away, you've reached a stage, the relationship with this artist where they can feel that they have respect from me, and
Okay.
they and automatically it's a given at this point that I'm going to be putting everything into, making whatever I do at the session, making them happy. And
Makes sense.
9 times out of 10, they were right.
Well, as long as it's in the majority, that's the important thing. But
Definitely. But I mean,
that's the important thing.
that happened with John McLaughlin. I mean, chances of him knowing who I might be, I don't even want to think about what the odds are. But I was everywhere, man. I was waiting outside his dressing rooms, waiting at stage doors, appearing with albums, putting him headphones on his head to listen to stuff that I'd done. I mean, I wanted to work with him, and I worked it.
and deservedly so.
And 1 year, and the year came, and I got my break. But I worked for it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it was earned. That makes perfect sense.
It's good to talk to sort of youngsters to really take this kind of level of being proactive about, not just things to do with yourself as a player or a programmer or whatever, but as far as I know, we're still, people involved with people. Right. And as long as that's the case, people are going to respond emotionally and respond to your sincerity and your ethic, your work ethic, And
nice.
It's very important to just sort of push that home because it pays off. And it might have taken a long time in my case, but hey, it just came around eventually, which is fine.
I always chuckle at I watch a lot of reaction videos on YouTube, these young kids hearing something for the first time, whether it's, Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb or watching Danny Carey play drums with Tool or what have you. And they would ask like, well, how do they remember where all those drums are? How do they remember where those sounds are? And I just want to yell back at the TV, practice, you practice. That's how you remember where everything is.
There you go.
So that's how you remember. I mean, that's how I remember how to type things.
That's got a vaguely Whiplashian vibe to it, though.
Yeah. I'm just not going to throw anything at him like that. Yeah, I'm just not going to throw anything at anybody. That's just my temperament. You come from an artistic background. Your parents were artists. I think I saw your mom was a dancer, your dad was a musician. Kids have a way of trying to do the opposite of what their parents do, just to get away from that. How did music grab you, more or less?
Well, really, maybe I had the opposite experience of a good many, but certain people found situations at school or felt through relationships with teachers that they had some kind of connection or something that was comfortable and conducive to learning. I didn't. I experienced a lot of persecution, but almost prejudice in a way. Prejudice, from people who regarded art as something weak or as something dainty, or whatever.
Okay.
And they'd make the parallels from that, and the whole thing was sort of already insulting from moment one. But when you have like 5 students who would systematically, a good 3 times a week, 5 of them wait outside for me to come out the school gates, and then it was survival time.
Yeah.
and they would just beat me to I kept getting up though.
That's the important thing. And not that I would even encourage the beating to begin with. I don't understand that. I love musicians. That seems, I'm envious,
No, these were, the kind of things that the school would go and do, for example, would be for me to never be able to come first in music. And my whole world was music because I had, as you established, I had a family base in music, and I was brought up hearing music, and I was meeting musicians and artists all the time, So to be in in some other kind of situation, it was, and to experience this kind of animosity, not to be able to come first in a music exam because they'd taken it as a given that I would pass anyway, and so they gave the second best, the second highest result as the winner.
Yeah.
So I mean, you think, can you not even give me that? I'm a dummy with everything else. And
Gotta
and
have
my
one
dad
gift.
and my father really campaigned for me, really fought ahead for me, and so did my mum. And they just said, look, he's studying privately. That's why you wouldn't give him the number one slot. Why don't you just let him go and practice for the period? He's done all this.
Yeah.
He's studying privately, Oh, no, he has to go the distance. But I can't win the exam. So what
That
does that say
doesn't make
to
sense.
somebody at that, when you're a teenager, it's like, so, I was rebelling really pretty hard. And it was my mum and dad, since we were talking about that really stood up for me. So really, the happiest situation was with them, and these were, I had the fortune to have parents who really fought for me and believed in what I was doing,
And that's
and
a great thing to have that, because there are plenty of
it was
parents out there that,
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah, there are plenty of parents that would, why don't you go to law school or
exactly,
be a doctor? Don't waste your time with
exactly,
this
exactly.
music thing. I love
Which
to
is
ask. Go ahead.
it would not to say that it wasn't like, hey, my dad, who was a classical musician by training and discipline, um, and loved all kinds of music, involvement with all kinds of music, said, okay, you're going to play piano, but you will learn classical piano
Right.
for a minimum of however many years, he said, and study musical theory and form and arranging and whatever else. So I mean, he said, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it this way.
That's
So
fair.
it wasn't like, yeah, just have fun, do what you want. It came with demands.
Yeah, there's still a level of discipline to be found in there somewhere, and I'm
Yeah, yeah,
sure that paid
fair
off down
enough.
the road. So that
Oh, it sure did. Yeah.
I'm sure. I was going to ask. You started with piano. You played drums. Where do you tend to compose the most? I'm guessing it's the piano. I'm not going to assume. I'm guessing it's the piano, but I always wonder with a drummer like Bill Bruford, for example, does he hear the drum first or does he hear the melody first? How does it work for you?
Um, it depends what the nature of and the seed of the idea is. I mean, if it's got syncopation to it, it's rhythmic, and you're hearing these rhythms darting all over the place. It's almost more realistic to think that this process is born of the drummer of us inside us, or but the sometimes the tendency with things you can hear away from any instrument is that you can hear music, but there are no notes. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's so already you have this sort of paradox, if you can call it that. But you kind of know what it is, but you have no way of determining it. And you go to a keyboard and you try and find what you're hearing, you can't find it. So what do? You sit there until you can find it. Um, but it's one of the reasons I really cherish the compositional sort of skills and theory that I was lucky enough to acquire. Because because that, in conjunction with piano, brought dimension to drums.
Okay.
It brought even impressionistic, more ways of articulating expression that is really, really rooted and born purely in the imagination, and
I see.
and this kind of dimension, as well as just like a more intrinsic understanding of musical form and music. So you have uh, just something, a guiding force that's much stronger than just arbitrary sometimes, for drummers. They'll hear something, come and go, react to it. I mean, that's all fair and good. It can be nice like that. But if you really want to develop and work hard to manifest an idea, that a creative idea you have, I think it kind of helps to have some way to be able to write it,
Right.
Not everybody can. I mean, Allan Holdsworth didn't even write or read music, so
And his style was so unique. It's almost, I'd almost be afraid to see it written on staff paper. Like, how do I get from here to there? How does that work?
Well, he had code. He had his own code.
Okay.
Yes, it's like noughts and crosses and little squiggles, and and he knew what it meant, but nobody else did. He really dug that. By the way.
All right. Since you brought it up, I don't like asking the cliche question of what was it like to work with so and so, but I would love to know more about Allan as a person or John McLaughlin as a person. Anything you can share with us there?
Yeah, that's two very different universes, right there.
That I believe.
They're pretty opposing people. In fact, the impetus, I'm not sure whether you know, but I made a couple of albums called Dirty and Beautiful.
I'm aware of them. I'm not versed, but I do know about them.
The genesis of the idea was actually revolving around a wish to unite John and Allan. And I was actually going to be writing the music, producing it, and basically taking them both out of their areas a little bit,
Yeah.
But of course, plenty of chance to be in their area and of course be who they are. But it was an invitation to try and do something different. I really didn't want to do a kind of like fastest guns thing, right. Although it would be incredibly exciting to hear them both really going for it, side by side, so to speak, in the company of each other. And I really tried for quite a while. In a way, you could be forgiven thinking John was the hardest work because he didn't. It was very difficult for him to get into a personality such as Allan. Mm-hmm. I mean, Allan, difficult to know how to put these things, but Allan was a pretty complex case, most irregular, and really not wired like most people at all.
I mean, musicians are already wired differently, so now this is different on different. Okay,
but he was this was different on different. Yeah, exactly. And it didn't get any better either. It got more and more different, increasingly different.
I understand.
But to the point, not an awful lot in life made sense to him except his existence in music. And I could kind of see it. There was something really pure about that.
Yeah.
Innocent, scared, vulnerable, all kinds of things, probably as a result of that kind of feeling. His needs were he needed a lot, to keep him going. And we as a team of the firmament of people that worked with him, I think we just tried to keep him going as long as he could, really. But he was, he had a sad decline, which we know about. But I mean, he was, personally, I would be forever grateful for him because he was the first one to let me be free and let me be. I'd never had anybody say, and I'm like 18 when I met him. And I said, what do you hear when you go into this section here? What would you like? He said, oh yeah, this, you can find something for that. I said, find something? He said, yeah, what does that make you want to play? I was like, this is the first time that I was able to address these kind of questions at myself. Nobody had given me the opportunity to ever do that. Okay. Although I was still pretty young, but I'd been working since 14 anyway.
Right. I was going to ask about that. How much leeway a McLaughlin or Holdsworth would give you within the context of the composition.
Well, total. In the case of Allan, really, he needed. I mean, first to establish, he was probably the most reluctant band leader ever that
Okay.
I've never known. I mean, you see his gait on stage. You see his stance where he is. He's in a corner.
Right.
He's got his amps here. He's kind of like a sideman. He looks like a sideman in his own band. You ever notice that?
Oh yeah. No spotlight for him. And
that was another thing. Yeah, no spots.
I understand. I'm writing about another reluctant band leader in Bernie Worrell, who was just perfectly happy off to the side of the stage, doing what he did, and
I can imagine
the rest of the band carry the day. There's no need for me to be out front.
Yeah, I can imagine.
As his wife told me, he would just say, "I don't want to be a babysitter. I don't want to lead a band. I just want to go over here and play." I can understand that.
Yeah, but I can believe that of dear Bernie.
You kind of touched on it a second ago. When I first saw you play in person for the first time was in 2017 with John McLaughlin on the Meeting of the Spirits tour. And I told you before we started, there are shows that you're happy to see, there are shows that you're lucky to see, and I was privileged to see that show. That was the exact feeling I had. Driving from St. Louis to Nashville and just being there to see that kind of thing. I was always shocked to see you behind a keyboard first, but I got past that. But the other thing that caught my attention is you have a spirit about you when you're playing. And I'm not talking about religion. That's none of my business. But there's something about you that's, I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost above the music. I can just feel your enthusiasm coming off the stage. Are you aware of that? Is that your driving force, or are you just out there doing what you do?
I'm just I'm feeling it. That's all. And if I'm not feeling it, I'm driving myself nuts trying to figure out why I'm not feeling it. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, all I know is that, we do this for a reason, because this music, we thrive on it. It takes us. We rely on it. We rely on it, and in turn, we give it everything we've got. Like someone like Elvin Jones would say, you play every time as like it's the last time you're ever going to play. And coming up and reading, immersing myself in interviews by people like that, and whatever any of them would say would be kind of gospel to me. And it would be like Tony Williams saying, I didn't want to play hi-hat on 2 and 4 or bass drum necessarily on 1 every time, right, because people expected it. I wanted to play the bass drum where it meant something. Now, can you imagine, Cedric? I mean, it might seem like a quite pretty small, not in the least impressive or significant or powerful thing, but to me it was everything. Yeah. Because he gave me license in saying that, not to try to be him or not to copy him. He gave me license to push the parameters, and on a few different levels too, and to not be afraid to speak up about it, and to and just speak loud and clear in the music. Try to make your music and your expression as strong as you possibly can, and never stop doing that. And his message was no, I'm not going to toe the line, because the essence of this forwarding is completely reliant on change. Right. And did he change? Did he change the rule book? I mean, my God,
And he was on the scene before my first experience with that, which was Bill Bruford, who just took drumming to a completely different place. And I credit him, and then Tony, because I got into Miles after that, and then I credit them with just odd time. Wow. To me doesn't sound odd. I'll just sit there and count it. Okay, this is in 7, and this is in 9, and this is in 11, and then 4/4 almost bores me now, because it's like, come on, step out and do something.
Yeah, exactly. But it is beautiful to travel. It's another blessing of being able to travel. You go to places like the Balkans and stuff where 11 and 15 are like commonplace. People feel like dancing to that,
Right.
And and the subdivisions too. I mean, you can't even throw them. It's so deeply entrenched in them, and you think, wow, it's just so much to absorb throughout the world and in the development of this music, that how flamenco came from another region, how everything kind of came about. I mean, I can't cite it all. I could kind of touch on it, but uh, like now, what were we talking about? I lost it.
Right, just the beat, just changing the beat, just changing the 4/4 flow. Because I was going to ask,
Oh yeah.
is it a conscious decision? Okay, I'm gonna invert this beat the way Bill might, or do you just do it and it just happens?
I think to really, really encourage the imagination side of ourselves, the imaginative side inside of ourselves and our instinct, and develop that to the point where we can really be actively progressing in terms of developing an ideas, and bring this to the table in a way that uh, not to the exclusion of the demands of another kind of music you might be playing, but whatever you bring to it, you acknowledge what's there. You acknowledge the fundamentals. You do this, but you can experiment with the boundaries of a situation, and just hopscotching here, kangarooing around. Going back to Allan, he depended on that. He wanted absolute creativity. He didn't want anything rigid at all. I mean, if something fell into a beat for longer than 3 bars, he was kind of like hands off the guitar, looking at me, going like, "What? What are you doing? Play."
Just stretch it out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, create.
That's good though. That's good inspiration, just to keep people off balance. I think that's what my ADD adult brain needs, because I need that. I need to be off balance a little bit. It forces me to pay attention. If I'm just listening to somebody just say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm off someplace else. Okay, let's find something else for me to listen to. Let's find me something for me to take apart. I love asking this question. When did you know you'd made the right decision to be a professional musician? Looking for an aha moment.
By the time I reached the big 1-0, I think. I think no.
Early on,
even before, I mean, it was kind of like a toss-up between motor racing, Formula One, and music. And thanks to my mum, who had considerable influence over me, overruling any prospect of entertaining an idea of being a race car driver.
I was going to ask which team you're for, because I've recently developed an obsession with F1. So.
Oh yeah, have you?
I have that bloody Netflix show,
Drive to Survive.
And I mean, I watched the first season knowing nothing, and by the third episode, I was just engrossed. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So now I started watching races, though I don't call it F1 now. I just call it the opportunity to become in second behind Max Verstappen.
Yeah, that's right. That pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
All right. Let's see who else is going to be on the podium, because we know he's already going to be there. Maybe he should first drive the first couple of laps backward, just to make it entertaining. But so you knew at a young age. That's a good thing, to know what you want to do when you grow up.
Yeah.
Let's touch on your new record before I start talking about racing all day, because I will.
Because I know you will, and I know you can.
Oh yeah, we will just wander right off and see what happens. But Songs of Love and Solace, a solo piano album.
Oh, you mean this? Oh no.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one. That
just happen to have one here.
What are the odds of having that one, something like that lying around? But tell us about that record. Know. What motivates one to do a solo piano record?
Well, I've done a few, but not of this type. So, I've done piano group led records. But I've also done a good few different solo albums on piano. One of them concentrating on John's music, one on Allan's music, as part of are certainly among the best too, I think.
I was going to ask about that too, because that's got to be an interesting transition going from angular or rapid fire guitar onto the piano.
Well, yeah, it was a funny kind of approach, really. I mean, they were both separate albums. So it was like one CD was the music of John, which came a few years after the one for Allan, and interpretations of the music of Allan. And I really allowed, since Allan wanted really everybody to sort of try and figure their own way out more, and their own their own explorations and their own ideas more. He didn't want me to clone any of the compositions at all. He didn't want to hear like regular arrangements of the same thing. Probably slightly creative, expanding with some of the harmonies here and there. But no, I completely. So I smashed it. I said, I'm going to smash it. I'll smash everything, I do, and I'll take the top line of a melody. And with Allan, really, a lot of his compositions, like on Merry-Go-Round, for instance, the top line of the chord is the melody,
Okay.
And it's just like the top note of the chord. So he sort of states his melodies through his chords like that in a way. And I just took the very top line, what I consider to be the melody line, and completely reinvented the harmony and even the whole area of the composition. It's turned quite a few into kind of like Satie-esque sort of piano. That's the classical staying with us, proving that everything we go through really stays with us, really does, if it profoundly touches us, which my piano teacher did. No, I'm not talking about violence again. It was,
no,
it was
chair
the music. It was the music. And so I came at it very, very differently, and he appreciated that very much. And then I did one for John using a very, very similar kind of approach, and created again already on something great, of course, with his compositions, the both of them, obviously.
Right.
And to try to find a different home for the Dance of Maya, or a different musical universe for that to exist in. I mean, so they were really, really creative periods for me to do those, and I loved doing them. So much as to say, with John's, he said, "Oh, these aren't even my compositions. You have to take all the publishing credit," which I thought was
very nice,
quite noble.
Very, very kind. Which leads us to the new record, and I love your touch. I love your touch. I don't
thank you.
I don't like making these comparisons because half the time I don't know what I'm talking about. But I thought about Bill Evans when I heard you play, just that kind of delicate touch, or some of the stuff that Herbie did.
I mean, it probably comes from that side of things. I mean, I loved the cool, exponents. Ahmad Jamal comes to mind. He's one of my real big favorites.
That's another good
one. Bill Evans, obviously, Herbie. And bits of everybody else. It's funny with pianists. I'm kind of fussy about it. I saw Danilo Perez last night, I must say, and it was just so refreshing to hear such a pure, formed and boisterous personality in music. And it had really, what he plays has got nothing to do with anybody else. I don't hear him derivative of anybody.
Okay.
On occasions maybe I hear something, but his character and personality is so immense musically, but his soul and his heart, which when you meet him, it's kind of like you, all nice and warm, and friendly.
Well, that's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Sure. I thought you'd like that.
you snuck that in. I'm kind of the way some people are with compliments. Oh, no, don't do that. I'm listening to the new record, and
Thank you
I don't
about
have.
this, by the way.
My pleasure. I don't have the track list in front of me, and all of a sudden I realize I'm hearing something familiar. I'm like, wait, is that the Beatles? I'm hearing right now, and
Yeah.
Can't Buy Me Love snuck up on me.
I know.
What was
I
the
mean,
decision process to throw that one in there?
well, it just kind of came, and it was there from the beginning. And at the beginning, I was very reluctant to make an album of this kind. I have to tell you, the idea was not mine.
Okay.
I had a producer. I have a producer friend who started out with the idea that he said, every time you come to the studio, you sit down at the piano and you start playing, beautiful harmonies to songs and stuff. I just want to record a record with you doing that. And I'm going, why? You've got all these beautiful renditions, not only by the composers of this material themselves or the chief performers of people that made this stuff famous, but you know, um, what does it mean? So I mean, he did actually choose some songs, some areas that I really clicked with him about.
Uh-huh.
And this is back in 2008 when we started recording a few of the tracks that are featured on the record.
Oh, okay. It's been around for a while.
Yeah, it's sort of half recorded in 2008 and half in 2003.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Well, the busy musician, you have a lot to do. So
we fell out, and we can only make it up all those years later. No, it was it was good, but I didn't. I kind of did it because he wanted me to do it, and he said, "Let's face it. Every time you make an album, you should just as well call it Passport to Penury." And I'm going, "Oh, thanks." Thanks.
Always there for the support. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And in the same breath, he said, "So how about this album?" I said, "The idea sucks." I mean, I love that stuff. I grew up around it.
Right.
I got CDs here. Jobim, Elise Regina. You hear this stuff?
I haven't heard that one. That's new.
Breathtaking, heartbreaking, and beautiful. And his whole formation in just every song that I heard come out of him, it's sublime. He's one of my big heroes, along with Johnny Mandel, who's responsible for a couple of tracks on this record. Beautiful, beautiful writer. Michel Legrand, even. I don't know. There are so many people in that expression somehow that they find their little corners to reveal themselves. But majorly, I have to say that the whole record was just about these times, and you only have to switch the TV on.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can get through 20 minutes without having to forcibly shut it down, over everybody else's wishes.
I come from a journalism background, and I've instituted a rule now where I only watch the news like 3 days a week. I just can't right now. It's too depressing.
Well, I remember one of the most beautiful arrangers, Nelson Riddle, wrote arrangements for Frank Sinatra on this record, Only the Lonely. And there's a beautiful little spoken passage on the back, which depicts why he chose to make that. And he really wrote the title "Songs for the Lost Ones." So the people that were vulnerable, the people that could use some warmth and a little tenderness, and somebody saying "I love you" in the music instead of the on merry-go-round. No, I'm kidding.
It's slightly different, but
it's all music, man. I mean, look at what I'm reading here. Kate Bush.
Okay,
I love Kate Bush.
Is that a biography or an autobiography?
I'm this far through this.
Oh my, okay.
This unbelievable and beautifully written book about Leonard Bernstein, big hero of mine. Django Reinhardt.
Very nice.
I get through books.
I'll say thanks for giving me more to add to my list right now. Right now, I'm reading about the Apollo program, but now I have to go back and and look at these things real quick.
I mean, well, it's just so interesting to read the lives of these people and feel a little closer to who they are or were. But anyway, getting back to the record, it wasn't my idea. Somebody accused me the other day as well. How does it feel to have made a commercial record? At last.
Right. I'm going, after all these years,
really, it's a commercial record. And I was surprised by it, but I found myself saying it. Maybe it is. If somebody does a cover of "Can't Buy Me Love," which is the only arrangement that isn't mine, by the way, on the record. That's okay. Richard Niles. But and I did the rest. But it doesn't. It's like they were. I chose material that was really that I remembered, and they just had melodies and themes that really just stayed with me and haunted me. So I just wanted to get I wanted to get the most elegant version that I could to speak to people who haven't had a good day.
Makes sense.
Just have a little glass of a nice red wine and eat a nice sandwich and listen to
just let it happen. If there's one thing I've learned from researching my book to talking to musicians for this channel, it's that musicians love music. They don't pigeonhole themselves and decide, because I found myself shocked when I talked to Deborah Holland, who was a part of Animal Logic with Stanley Clarke and Stuart Copeland, and I figured she would be off in some esoteric land, and then she tells me that she likes a tune from the Black Eyed Peas, and it took me a minute to process that. And then I see Steven Wilson, who talks about loving ABBA and what have you. And it just finally dawned on me. Musicians love music. They don't have time to focus on genre. So I would ask you to explain to my progressive rock loving friends, because ironically, they can be some of the least progressive people on earth.
Okay.
How important it is to branch out into other forms of music. What do you tell someone when they kind of look at you with that prog snob type attitude?
I'll tell them what Chris Squire said to me about how they were all feeling when Herbie Hancock released Crossings. And he said, man, everything we did was a pale imitation of Herbie Hancock's Crossings. We were absolutely just tranced out by that record. We knew we'd never achieve anything as great as that, or that's what he said, but it never stopped us trying. So to think that an album like that was kind of pivotal to what they were doing. But I love that in a couple of different senses, because what they were doing was absolutely nothing like Crossings by Herbie Hancock. But it had I think I detect something. I sometimes feel as if I can detect something of what they maybe took away with them after all this enjoyment they had listening to that record. For instance, by example, I mean, he was listening to, as you say, just such a broad, eclectic range of music and artists. And I really liked Chris Squire. I just wanted to say that too.
Oh yeah,
he was a very forward thinker, and I liked him a lot as a man.
Did you do any work with him? I missed that on your resume. Okay.
Well, no, it's not even on my resume. Well, maybe it is, but yeah, I worked with him for 5 minutes. But I was supposed to come to the States. Do you remember the forerunner of the band Yes?
I do not. I'd be lying if I said I did.
Okay, so they would be called The Sin.
Okay.
And I think it's SYN. And there was a particular singer who was the original singer. I forget who else was involved. But Chris Squire was involved, and we did about 3 or 4 tracks of Fish Out of Water.
Okay.
And this was, by the way, I'm jumping ahead. Unacceptably.
Jump wherever you want. Go ahead. But it's a conversation, not a... Let's go. Jump wherever you want.
This was meant to be a reformation of this band, the forerunner of Yes.
Okay.
I think it was. And the original drummer was either sadly passed or not around or not willing to do anything. So they needed somebody. And if you know Jeremy Stacey over here, I think he was doing it. Of course, you'll know him from Crimson.
Exactly.
But and he couldn't do it, so he gave it to me. And they were like, "Oh, well, who are you?" And I went, "Well, long story, but just let me show up. I'll show you who I am."
Yeah.
You know,
and get it done, right?
You know, I wish. Anyway, it was all kind of going pretty well, and I think Steve Howe was supposed to be joining us. And something that could not work out with his passport, a very, very big problem with his passport. The whole tour was off, but the tour was going to happen.
Oh, wow, that would have been interesting, too.
Unless this was like a dream, you know.
I'd go see that. That's just me. But
no, I was in love. You know, it was just once again being sort of enthralled, immersing myself in the world of Bill Bruford and his whole kind of style of creation, and Alan White too. I admired greatly, and really, Chris wanted the version to be pretty much like the version of whatever we were playing of Fish Out of Water, and I cannot remember which songs they were. Anyway, it was fantastic music. I mean, it was big music. Yeah. I remember saying that to him. Man, it's big music. And
it sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Now, this is an odd question just popped in my head. What kind of venue does that kind of music belong in to you? I mean, I've seen progressive bands play in clubs. I've seen them play in arenas. Where do you feel that kind of music deserves to be? What kind of audience and venue?
The Enorma Dome. I don't know, man. It strikes me. It's kind of hard when you get a little bit older, and in your lifetime you've experienced seeing acts that you know in former days filled places like the Rainbow here in London, for instance, or you know, Earl's Court even, and it's just very, very, very different now, isn't it? So
it really is.
I mean, I've watched the sort of gradual change. I guess the thread I had was, particularly in the States, the guy I toured most with in the States was always Allan Holdsworth, and we always played the same clubs, even throughout the 80s and into the, you know, nearly into the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably just don't know. I don't expect anything anymore. I'm too kind of surprised when I see yikes, what those guys are playing here. You know,
how is that going to work? I mean, I've sworn off of hockey arenas and what have you. I've officially retired. I saw Peter Gabriel last fall.
Oh, and we too.
He was the last one on my list, and it was a wonderful show musically, but I was completely off the stage right, and I couldn't see the video screen, so I have no idea what was going on in terms of video. And I'm figuring he'll inevitably put a concert video out, so I'll see it then. But
I hope so.
That's just one of the reasons I don't like, you know, arena gigs and what have you. And it's a double-edged sword because I wish nothing but the most success for the artists I admire. You know, I want you to get in front of as many people as possible, but I'm also selfish. I want to be able to get there early and be 10, 15 feet from you while you're playing. So it's a tough road to hoe, as my dad used to say.
Tough road to hoe.
So it's a tough spot to be in. It's like, all right, I want you guys to be really famous, but not so famous that I can't get my ticket easily and get right up front. Because you know, a band like Snarky Puppy, for example, the first time I saw them was in a club with like 400 people, and the next time they came to town, they were outdoors with 1,200 people, and I can only imagine it's just going to keep growing from there because the secret's out. So but where's your comfort level in terms of playing? I mean, I always hear about big venues where, you know, the lights are so bright I can't see past the second row anyway. So is there some place where you feel more comfortable to play?
No.
You just do it.
I like the big ones and the small ones. I mean, if anything, the small ones just have this. Obviously, as you'd imagine, with the being so closer to people, it's more intimate. But you know, it can sometimes it comes from people. You know, if people really respond, if you're doing a good job, really, and I have to say that it's not always the case with things that I've done that have really transmitted well. You know,
Right.
people have kind of looked or appeared bored on stage and stuff, and I hate that, this kind of complacent. You know, and not only do I hate it, I think the audience hates it too, because
Yeah.
there's never
Yeah.
any. They know. They know if your heart's if you don't have both feet, both arms, the entire being, your heart, your entire willpower and determination system in progress in
Right.
that music, they know.
I've
And
seen
they're
very
like,
a couple of shows where I could tell the difference. Like, oh,
oh
let's
man,
drag out the hit again, and get let's just get through this so we
yeah,
can go on to the next thing. I get frustrated with concert audiences who just they just want the old stuff. I'm like, they have a new record. Can we let them play the new stuff
oh,
for a
but
while? Because
that's always been, I think, to a certain extent, that's always been, yeah, like,
yeah,
yeah, you can't. I mean, all the bands, people like me have had to suffer like playing in bands that have replaced another drummer
right,
after the mainstay, famous original incarnation of lineup of a particular band, and you come along and you're in version 2 of the band, and
yeah.
you know,
And you didn't play it like so and so played it, so you have to
yeah,
you have to
man.
endure you have to endure some of that too.
Well, I had that with a group, this group Level 42, because
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
I was always loved pop music, and especially 80s, around the 80s time anyway, and rock. But when I sort of took over, I didn't really see it like I'd taken over, but other people took it very personally,
Hmm.
as in fans of the band, which were significant at that time. And this was the time before being online. I used to get real mail letters, and I had a sacks full of hate mail.
Oh,
Like,
I mean, really?
I just read. I mean, I'd be reading them all, going like, "We don't want you. Please leave.
Oh,
We're
good God.
missing the old band. You
Yeah,
are not the old band." You know,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
was like, "Oh man," and I
Hmm.
just take these letters and go, "Would you just trash this?"
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. The worst case I've heard with that was with Adrian Belew, and a man who was associated with King Crimson for 33 years, and people were still asking if he should be in the band. Should he be fronting
I
this band
saw
like
this. What a
that?
ridiculous.
I mean, it's just insane. There he is. Let him do what he does. And speaking of the old stuff, I went to a. It's kind of an aside. I went to a Crimson show in 2003, right after they released "The Power to Believe," and I'm
Mm.
standing in front, waiting to get in, and I'm standing in front of this guy in his tie dye Court of the Crimson King T-shirt, with the gray hair and the ponytail, and oh, I hope they play Cat Food. I hope they play Groon. And I looked at him and I said, my man, this ain't that show. This ain't your daddy's King Crimson. This is going to be
Yeah.
something completely new. And he figured I didn't know what I was talking about. And then,
Yeah.
the show starts and they kick into level 5, which is practically metal. And he just
Yeah.
happened to turn around and see me staring at him. And I just mouthed, I told you,
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah.
this is completely different. So
Right.
that,
Right.
I mean, you got to allow a band to move forward and just continue to progress. If it means you change up a drum part in level 42, then that's just the way it goes.
I didn't so much as even change up things. It's just that, I wasn't funky enough, or I didn't wear the right shaped glasses, and I don't. They saw me as a fusion drummer, um, playing, masquerading as a pop. Anyway, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Um, I know that the same thing to an extent, with Simon Phillips, the drummer, when he joined Toto.
I was just about to mention that because I talked to Simon a few months ago and
It's
just
almost an identical situation,
I
and they
watched.
just can't get over it, and they can't
Yeah,
help themselves. But at the same time, they're wishing you well, or trying to, but they're also saying, I'd like to kill you. It's like, please leave my favorite band. You know.
Yeah. I want them the way they were, intact and whatnot. Well, get over it, because it's
Well,
not going to work that way anymore.
It's the difference between it not happening at all and happening now. I mean, at least the band was playing a certain percentage of the show of old favorites. He brought back enough of those so as to keep everybody happy. People enjoyed the new stuff, but also it was punctuated by the old stuff. So
my perfect example of that was Kansas. I reviewed them for Prog Magazine several months ago, and I think there were 2 original members left. No more than 3. And I was a little bit cynical. I hadn't thought about Kansas passionately since 1989, 1990, something like that. They're hiring me to do this gig. Okay, I'll just go and I'll write my review. And they were fantastic. I mean, they were absolutely amazing.
Wow, wonderful.
And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, this is Kansas. This is the band now. So it's just one of those things you have to live with. And you brought up Simon. Yeah. And one of the questions I asked him, one of the things I noticed about him, whether he was playing in a more pop-oriented situation or he was playing with Hiromi, which is my favorite gig of his drum kit stays largely the same.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Bruford changed his kit every 15 minutes. So I wonder about you. Do you feel the need to make those kind of changes? Whether it's a particular brand of keyboard or a particular setup with your drums, or are you consistent?
Do you know that piece of film by David Bowie that quite famous? It's around on YouTube, where he talks about the creative process a little bit.
Yeah, I think I've seen it. Yeah.
And where he said, if you, he's summarizing other aspects, but he said, if you were to walk into the water, and get into deeper, if you just that spot where your feet aren't quite touching the ground anymore, that's just the place you need to be to sort of probably create something really good, and that really rang true with me. I thought it was a very wise and deep man to think of that, and I agree wholeheartedly.
I don't know about you, but I really miss Bowie. I mean,
me too.
I didn't stalk him musically per se. It was just one of those things where I know you're out there, and every couple of years a new album's going to drop, and I'll be there for it. And now that doesn't happen anymore, and it's painful.
He was one of those guys. Please, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. He was one of those guys. Let's not lose that thought.
No, I was going to get when he passed. It was absolutely. I had a phone call from my wife, partner, and she said, "I've just seen David Bowie's son on the TV, and he's dead. David Bowie's dead." I was like, "What?"
I was like, "What do you mean, David Bowie's dead?"
I said to her, "And you can you believe what came out of my mouth next? It was." No. He's David Bowie. He doesn't die.
Exactly. Exactly. Musicians like that live on forever. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
I had to go to work. I had to be a policeman. I woke up for a day tour. I worked 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I woke up and the news was sitting there. I saw it on Facebook first and I just knew it was a hoax. And the next thing I knew, I see the New York Times headline. I'm like, okay, this is a little serious. And I texted Julie Slick, Adrian Ballew's bass player, because Adrian was close to David, and I just basically said, "Hey, is this really happening? I can't believe this is happening." And she just texted back one sentence saying, "I'm still in shock." And now I've got to go to work and be, the big policeman. I've got to be the solver of problems and whatnot. And I'm just trying to keep from crying, the entire shift. So I take, 2/3 of my Bowie collection to work with me so I can play it in the CD player in the car while I'm patrolling around. That was just a shocker. Miles Davis made sense to me in its own way. Stevie Ray Vaughan was a shock. Jeff Beck was a shock. Or Neil Peart was a shock. But Bowie was the biggest one, because we're having this conversation because of David Bowie. Because when I was 6 years old, my mom snuck a 45 of Space Oddity into the pile of records, that the Motown and Stax Volt records that were already there.
Yeah.
It just changed my brain. And I was like, what's happening here? I was like a little puppy, with my head tilted to the side.
Yeah.
What's going on here? So I'm going to ask you, what kind of records affected you that way when you were growing up?
Oh man, it's too wide and diverse to, you know.
Oh, I know that feeling. I didn't know if any
I'm
one
sure you
snuck up on
do.
you or anything like that, but yeah, I definitely know that feeling.
I don't know. I play the drums because I saw a drummer in 1972 called John von Olin, and he was the drummer in Stan Kenton Orchestra,
Okay.
and they'd done a show recorded in London, and the way he played was completely life changing to me. So he's kind of like a big band drummer, but with a real big sound, big low tuning I'd never heard in big bands before, and power and passion, and just the look on his face. He looked like he was like possessed.
Yeah.
He was in this kind of frenzy of intensity, and so I go, hey, there's no question anymore. I'm going to do that. I mean, I'm going to try to do that,
But that's the
but
driving force.
or better still, I want to do that. And that's what I intended to do. So I started playing drums on the strength of that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd been watching drummers for a while and thinking, yeah, wouldn't that be fun? And also very, very excited by people like Mitch Mitchell, which if people don't know was Jimi Hendrix
Oh yeah.
experience, and before Buddy Miles, and then nothing against Buddy Miles at all. He was another hero. So I mean, really, just a real big mix. If you're talking, my father was playing lots of Brazilian music. I was listening to Stravinsky's Mass while studying Bartók's Microcosmos system, which warped my conception of piano and harmony and lines forever. Because I started out thinking that surely they can't. Whoever wrote this cannot mean it.
But apparently they did.
I was like, and I asked my dad, I said, have they made some mistakes here? It's like, does he mean this? And he goes,
Was it a dissonant sound or something that was just
yeah,
kind of
that's
working?
Bela Bartok. And it was like, welcome to the world of bitonality, atonality, and the rest. It was to 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 become exposed and to have that permeate your experience of
Yeah.
of what you hear, and how you translate, how that translates in you. I don't know, how can you talk about music, but it was like seriously life changing. So
Those are the
so
aha moments. I love those moments.
so I'm listening to all these different the big bands, Stravinsky, while studying Bartok, then taking up drums. Found Miles. Um, I upstairs listening to Tony Williams' Lifetime and Jimi Hendrix. I mean, and my dad's listening to Sergio Mendes and Dori Caymmi downstairs, and the Brazilian wonderful musicians. And my mom's listening to Lena Horne in the kitchen, and Billie Holiday, and you know.
Paul,
So
wonderfully eclectic what you had going on there.
I don't know what the labels. It didn't mean anything to me.
Oh no.
And still doesn't. And I'm sure I feel it like a mirror image of you, Cedric.
Oh yeah, my musical holy trinity. When people ask me what kind of music I like, my top three are Frank Zappa, Miles Davis, and King Crimson. So you tell me what kind of music I like,
Yeah.
And I love Tool, and I love Bach, and I love Stevie Wonder, and I love Johnny Cash. So
Well, there you go.
What do I listen to? So it's I love, it's like everybody else. I love music. I have a bunch of guitars hanging around my house, but I wouldn't call myself a musician. I'm just a punter. I'm just a hacker, just learning a couple of songs here and there. Like I just learned "Wish You Were Here," and that I'm happy to play that in the living room. I don't need to go out and do anything.
You're a very inspirational giant and a very nice man, and
I appreciate
that. Fine writer.
Oh, you're doing that thing again where you're complimenting me. I appreciate it, but now I have to go run and hide.
Hey, I take checks. What can I tell you?
Well, it's the modern age. I'll just Venmo it to you. It's fine. It'll be there instantly.
Any of it works. PayPal, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever happens out there. I'm going to let you off the hook in a second. I'm going to ask one cliche question because I'm always curious. Who have you not worked with that you that you would like to work with? Is there anybody left?
Well, I'd sure love to find somebody great. I'm often getting slammed because I won't take part in any music, live music, playing the music of Allan Holdsworth. I said, no, I will never. When he died, that was the closing of the book.
Okay.
I could never do that with anybody. And they go, why? You loved it. And I said, that's why.
Makes perfect sense. I understand.
So, I mean, and to find, I just like to find more ambitious people than I am finding. I'm meeting a lot of great musicians all the time, and I'm seeing, my God, a lot of incredible artists coming up.
I love what you did with Mark Wingfield and Marcus Reuter.
Oh, thanks.
Artists like that. You just and that definitely stretches your brain. I mean, you've got to, as I think you guys were in more of an improvisational mode when you were doing that. So.
Oh yeah.
Let me find.
With Marcus, yeah, for sure. That was completely improvised. But the Mark Wingfield was more compositional. And there've been different, and Leonardo will release something nice from me in due course. It's called Postcards from the Past, and it features a lot of things, a lot of tracks that got away, that are around, and I've got rough versions of, or even demos, if they've got some interest to them, some worthiness to them. Among them are the first ever track I played with Allan in a studio. It was a version of a song, The Things You See. It was way before the IOU album, more than a year before. Over a year before.
Of course, Leonardo loved Allan too.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to him, Allan comes up. But he just revered the man. So.
Well, it was a wish of Allan's that Robert Feist, the engineer who he used, and that we all know, he said, you can give some of these to Gary, some.
Yeah.
But at least the ones he was involved in, which is fine. And he basically gave him the blessing to be able to say, you'll know what to do with them. And this was what Robert said to me, you know what to do with it. So it just so happens I was thinking of this record, Postcards from the Past, and that's ideal, man, because nobody's ever heard this. I haven't heard it since 1978 when we did it.
Okay.
So
it's been a couple of minutes.
So that should, things like that with some interest, really, for featuring a lot of different people and lineups and stuff.
And of course, I'll be looking for inside information on when that's going to be released. So,
you'll be getting advance copies, business class flights, whatever.
You had me in business class flights. That's all right. I will happily come over there. I don't want to spend 10 hours in coach from Chicago to London. I would rather not. Last but not least, I'm going to give you a chance to hype yourself, self-promote. What do you want people to know about, and where are they going to find your music, your favorite spots?
Oh man, that's a good question.
I try.
I've got some things coming out. Have you heard of a guy called Mark Pelath?
I have not.
He's kind of like a proggy guy, writing, very, very interesting writer. And I played on his record before, and I've just played on a new one by him. He's a big affiliate of Marcus Reuter. I think Marcus has been guiding him on a few things.
Okay.
There's a thing to mention with those of us in the fourth dimension with John McLaughlin. That band is no more now.
Yeah, I figured as much. And that's a loss.
But Elvis, Etienne, we call him Elvis.
There's got to be a story behind that too.
It's the bling, man.
Okay.
It's the toot,
I was gonna say, I didn't know if it was the gloves or what the deal is when he plays, and I'm still baffled by that. But that's a whole that's a whole different conversation.
He's a
But he's an
funky
amazing
mother.
player, just a
Yeah,
monster.
he is. But him, Ranjit and myself, we don't want to stop. So we're actually forming a 3-piece, which might include guests down, in the future, but will be called the Next Dimension.
Okay.
So I
I'm
thought
in.
I haven't even sort of told anybody that really, but that's great. We're going to be working towards an album and getting out there. Got these all written down here. Oh, I'm doing an album with James, my dear friend James Guthrie,
Okay.
who's the producer for the Pink Floyd producer, and he's got a very nice project. It's been in production for a few years, being recorded. That's coming out soon. What else have I got here? Oh yeah, there's an album with Adrian Ferro, myself on keyboards and drums, and the student of the late Dean Brown, who we lost quite recently. His name's James Morgan, and we've got like a fusion sort of power record coming out, which I'm going to be mixing like in about a week. So that's nice. Is there anything else here? Postcards from the past? No. Oh yeah, the record with Adrian Ferro, myself, and James is called A Moment in Time.
Okay.
I don't, and I'm just working all the time.
Yeah. It sounds like when I write, somebody says, "Oh, I love that thing you wrote." I'm like, "What? Which thing are you talking about?"
No.
I'm sure by the time that record comes out, you're like 3 more down the road somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm touring a bit with Billy Cobham in the Spectrum 50 band.
Oh, very nice.
It's been 50 years in Spectrum. I did Spectrum 40 band and Spectrum 30 band.
Okay.
So they've always been really special. So I'm enjoying that too. And hey guys, read The Artist's Way. There's some great stories about really how to enliven and inspire this creative process within you and stuff. Invigorate it, and
right.
It's great. Yeah, I'm watching interviews with the writer. I can't remember who she is, but it's very impressive. So anything basically that just gets us in a good place to create,
right.
Just like David Bowie said.
Yep. just get the ignition. Gary, I can't thank you enough. This has been a great deal of fun. A great deal of fun for you folks out there. Please give me that like and subscribe. I have to throw that in there. But more importantly, just ask questions. Let's quiz Gary further. And I'll relay your questions to him, and we'll see if we can't get answers. But meanwhile, I know the man's got stuff to do, so I will let you go forth and do that. I appreciate your time, and take care of yourself. And I'm hoping I'll see you in London soon.
Oh, I'm very grateful to you, Cedric. I sure wish wherever it is we'll see each other soon. And I just want to offer huge thanks for having me on. It's been a real pleasure.
All right, take care of yourself.
You too, sir.